What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sacred Cards. That's right, I'm back after about a 3 week hiatus. If you've seen my recent community posts, you'll know that I've been dealing with a few things, and I just want to say personally how much I appreciate each and every one of you who have stuck by me and keep watching the videos. Even with my time off, we continue to grow. Just goes to show what an amazing community this is, so thank you and could not be more grateful to be here. Well, with that out of the way, today I'm coming at you with an update to my Nouvelles deck profile for April 2024. I want to come back with a deck that just might be my favorite of all time. I say that because I love every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! For the most part, but there are a select few that I find so much fun to play and that makes for so many possibilities and challenges you to be a good pilot rather than more linear strategies. As most of you know, I love bringing a lower tier deck to a level that's able to compete against archetypes at a higher tier. So with all that said, I'll go through my 40 card deck list and try and explain the cards as best I can. Welcome to Nouvelles Restaurant. As always, please forgive my French, but stick with me as I'm persistently working on correct pronunciation. Allow me to introduce to you your waitress for the evening. 3 copies of Poissonnaire de Nouvelles. This is one of your best starters. If it's normal or special summon, you can add a level 1 ritual monster or recipe card from your deck to your hand. It also has the ability to banish any number of recipe cards from your graveyard to special summon the same level ritual monster from your hand as the number you banished. Plus, if you tribute it for cost of a ritual summon, you can place it in the pendulum zone with the effect that if you control a ritual monster, target a monster on the field, special summon this card, change that monster's battle position. This effect is really good for triggering the effect of your own ritual monsters so they contribute themselves to level themselves up. Next up for the cooks, we have 2 copies of Bouillabaisse de Nouvelles. If this card is special summon, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck and add a Nouvelle card. If this card is targeted by a card effect or an attack, quick effect, you can tribute itself and 1 attack position monster on the field. Special summon a level 2 or 3 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. For the level 2, I play 2 copies of Confira de Nouvelles. Main reason I'm playing 2 is that so it ensures your copies of pre-preparation of rights are always live. Plus, if your opponent knows what you're doing and tries to play around you, using Meat Recipe to summon this card is crucial to get your opponent's monsters out of attack position. If this card is special summon, you can destroy a spell or trap on the field, and just like Bouillabaisse, when this card is targeted by a card effect or an attack, quick effect, tribute itself and 1 attack position monster on the field, special summon a level 3 or 4 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. Next up, I'm playing 1 copy of Petit de Nouvelles. Yes, I cut this card down to 1 as I believe some of the other cooks are just better in my opinion, and I've never really missed a second copy. If you're managing your resources, you'll have no problem. When it's special summon, you get to draw a card. This one has the ability that when any monster on the field is targeted by a card effect or an attack, quick effect, tribute a Nouvelle monster and 1 attack position monster on the field, and special summon a level 4 or 5 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. Then we have the level 4, 1 copy of Foie Glacia de Nouvelles. Foie Glacia is very important for the deck because it helps manage the resources in the kitchen. If it is special summon, you can target 3 cards in either graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. Once again, when any monster on the field is targeted by card effect or an attack, quick effect, tribute a Nouvelle monster and 1 attack position monster on the field, and special summon a level 5 or 6 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. Next is one of my favorite cooks. We have our sous chef, 2 copies of Balaminière de Nouvelles. If this card is special summon, you can add a Nouvelle or recipe card from your deck to your hand, so they can basically search your whole deck for anything you need. This card also has the ability to target an attack position monster your opponent controls, tribute it, then special summon a level 6 Nouvelle ritual monster from your hand or deck. This is a quick effect if this card was special summoned by the effect of a Nouvelle monster. So that is the goal there. Now for the head chef of this restaurant, 1 copy of Belgril de Nouvelles. This chef is all business and definitely runs the show. When this card is special summoned, it negates the effects of all monsters your opponent controls. Then, if this card was summoned by the effect of a Nouvelle monster, being Foie Glacia or Balaminiere, you contribute as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. It also has a quick effect to tribute an attack position monster your opponent controls, and if you do, special summon Hungry Burger from your hand or deck, which can also come with another effect, but I'll get to that in a bit. And finally, we have 1 copy of our beautiful collector rare Hungry Burger. Now, I just want to say, when this card came out back in 2002, everybody loved this card and thought it was hilarious. It never seen another printing since. I didn't think we'd have to wait until 2023 to have a deck built around this. Hungry Burger is essential to play, especially when paired with our head chef and special recipe trap card. I will talk about that more when we get into the spells and traps. And another starter for the deck, I play 3 copies of Diviner of the Herald. Diviner has the effect that if it is summoned, you can send a fairy monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard. Then it gains the level of that monster sent, bringing it up to a level 6, which is perfect for this deck. Usually we're going to send a copy of Herald or Elder Entity from the extra deck to get you a search, or a search of a ritual monster or spell, or destroy a card on the field with Entis. Another reason I like this card is because if it's tributed, you can special summon a level 2 or lower fairy monster, so you can get to a copy of Poissonnaire to get you another search of any missing combo piece you might need. A really powerful deck, or really powerful tech that has great synergy with this deck. Continuing on with the fairy package, I play 1 copy of Sakitama. You may have seen this card in a few lists, and I have a really hard time cutting this card for several reasons. One being that this card plus Diviner at level 6 makes Baron de Fleur. Its effects lets you normal summon it anytime from your hand. If it is tributed, you can return it back to your hand, essentially making an infinite resource loop. Plus level 4 makes it good fodder to get to your ritual monsters on the field, or material for a link summon is always nice. And then last of the fairy package is 1 copy of Cyber Angel Benten. I'm only running 1. I didn't want to see multiple. It's perfect for tributing for a ritual monster, and when you do, you can add a copy of Diviner from your deck to your hand. Next, I'm running 6 hand traps. Throughout testing, and believe me, I've done a considerable amount of testing with this deck. I like playing cards that can be activated in the hand because this deck does a decent amount of draws, and the Restaurant Field spell gets you draw at your end phase, so it's really nice to increase your odds of picking up something to use against your opponent during their turn. My 6 choices for hand traps are 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Simple and need no explanation. These are just great cards to have access to in any given situation. Ash is just a powerful card, and Veiler is not once per turn. This deck has so much gas on its own, so you don't need too much. It's hard to balance the ratios of disruption cards because oftentimes I find I'm able to do way too much, and I'd rather have a card to stop my opponent from doing what they want instead. I'm always working on finding the perfect balance, but so far I've been very happy with this here. Now that is it for the monsters. Now moving on to the spells. Let's start off with the venue itself. 1 copy of this collector's rare Nouvelle restaurant. Now this card is amazing and I love the artwork, absolutely beautiful. I love this deck, so max rarity is a must for me. Now, I already know what you're thinking. You're only playing one copy because you only have one collector's rare, and that is not true. I do have two of them. I'm only playing one because I found that's all you need. It's a fantastic card, but it's easy enough to search. You don't really want to see multiple. When it's activated, you get to add a recipe card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can place a ritual monster from your hand to the bottom of the deck to draw a card. Plus, during the end phase, you can target a recipe card and any other card in the graveyard, place them on the bottom of the deck, draw a card. This is great for cycling your recipes, copies of Head Chef, Hungry Burger, or any other cards you want. Really good for draw power and managing your resources. And now that you've seen the restaurant, you need a menu. Double copies of Voici la carte, today's menu. You present your opponent by revealing two Nouvelles monsters with different names from your deck. They pick one to add to your hand and shuffle the other back into the deck. Whether the card added was a warrior, add a copy of Meat Recipe, or if it was a Beast Warrior, you can add a copy of Fish Recipe. Now that you've made your choice on the menu, allow me to pull up my recipe book. Cards are in order here. For this deck, the perfect ratio for me is 2 and 2, starting with 2 copies of Recette de Poisson, aka Fish Recipe. You can definitely bump this card up to 3 copies if you like, as it's not once per turn, but it's easy to recycle. You use this card to ritual summon your Nouvelle monsters. Although if you special summon Bouillabaisse with your copy of Fish Recipe, you can add a copy of Meat Recipe from your deck to your hand. And the other ritual spell is 2 copies Recette de Viande, aka Meat Recipe. Meat Recipe has the same effect to ritual summon any Nouvelle monster, except when you special summon Confira, you can change all defense position monsters your opponent controls to attack position, which is really good for this deck because we want them in attack position so we contribute them for our effects. Now, just like any good kitchen out there, there will be conflict, which is why we play 3 copies of Concours de Cuisine, aka Culinary Confrontation. In my opinion, this is your best starter turn 1 because it special summons your waitress from your deck and puts a monster on the opponent's field for tribute. This card lets you choose 1 Nouvelle Pendulum monster and 1 Pâtissier Pendulum monster from your hand, deck, or extra deck. Special summon 1 monster to each field. Usually you summon Poissonnière to your side of the field to get its search effects, then Pâtissier to your opponent's field. This card has the ability that during your main phase, you can banish this card from the graveyard and increase the attack of one of your monsters by 200 points for each recipe card in the graveyard. That does target, so it's really good for targeting your own monsters to trigger their own effects. Next, for more ritual search support, I play 3 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. I like pre-prep because it lets you add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand, then add a monster listed in its text to get a copy of Fish Recipe along with your copy of Bouillabaisse, or Meat Recipe along with your copy of Confira. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to use this card before anything else because your opponent is likely going to try and negate it, and usually you can still likely make a play anyways, and if not, you're going to have a ton of card advantage, so that's really nice there. And before we get into the traps, I'm just playing 1 copy of Called by the Grave. Just another all-around good card to have access to, as you do a lot of searching by activating monster effects, and almost every card in this deck can be ashed. So it's really powerful in any matchup and just makes sense to play it. Now that's it for the spells. Now moving on to the traps, starting off with 1 copy of another collector's rare, Chef's Special Recipe. 1 copy is all you need, as there are multiple ways to search this card, and it's easy to recycle from your graveyard with the Restaurant Field spell. Chef's Special Recipe is a counter trap that when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated while you have a Nouvelle ritual monster, negate the effects, then you can destroy that card if you control a monster that was special summoned by the effect of a Nouvelle monster. It also has the ability that if Hungry Burger is special summoned, banish this card from your graveyard, tribute as many monsters your opponent controls as possible. And finally, the last card in the main deck is one copy of Recette de Personnel, aka Staff Recipe. Staff Recipe is really good as a one-of. It can target a ritual monster you control and special summons a Nouvelles token, level 1, with 50 attack and defense. This token becomes the level of the monster you targeted. Really good for triggering your ritual monster's effects. It also lets you send this card from your spell or trap zone to ritual summon a monster from your hand by tributing monsters from your hand or field that equals the level of the monster you want to summon. Now that's it for the main deck. Now moving on to the extra deck. Now the extra deck can play a lot of whatever you like, but there's a few cards I consider to be essential. One of them being 2 copies of Pâtissier Couverture. It pairs with your copies of Culinary Confrontation. I like having 2 in case I open more copies of Confrontation. Usually I'll be giving this card to my opponent so you can get the effects of your copies of Poissonnaire. Next, I like to play 2 copies of Elder Entity Entis. This is a really good card to send off your copy of Diviner. If Elder Entity, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can destroy a problematic card on the field, while increasing your Diviner's level to 6, making it great tribute fodder for your ritual summons. Another target for Diviner is 2 copies of Diviner of the Herald, Herald of the Arclight. If Herald is sent, you can add a ritual monster or ritual spell from your deck to your hand, and you can just as well synchro summon Herald to negate and destroy a spell, trap, or monster effect. Now the other synchro monster I play is 1 copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron can be made with your copies of Diviner as a negate for your opponent and destroy cards on their field. Just another all-around really good card to have access to, and it's easy enough to make, so why not have it? Next are the Link monsters, and the only one I find essential is 2 copies of Dynamondo. Dynamondo is an insanely good card for this deck. I absolutely love its effect that if it is special summoned, you can target a card on the field and 1 ritual monster in the graveyard, shuffle them back into the deck. It also has the ability that during your opponent's turn, quick effect, tribute this card, target a ritual monster in the graveyard, and either special summon it and add it to your hand. Other Link monsters that provide a lot of utility is 1 copy of Salamangreat Almirage and 1 copy of Relinquished Anima. Almirage is a great option to have because you can make it with your normal summons of Poissonnaire or Diviner. The nice thing about this card is you can use its quick effect to target your ritual monster, which can then trigger its effect to tribute an opponent's monster and level up into another chef. Anima is here because we play a lot of level 1s in the deck, so it's nice being able to steal an opponent's monster. And best case, you can use this card before anything else to force them to use up a negate or put up more attack power on the board. So now a really good Link monster to consider playing is 1 copy of Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep is good to have access to because for this deck, if you ritual summon to a zone it points to, you can draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. If you synchro summon, you can have all monsters your opponent control, all monsters you control gain 700 attack. Now another boss monster you can make with this deck is 1 copy of Nepotes, the Sacred Flame. Really love having this card in the deck. It also requires a ritual monster for its summon, but it gains these effects based on the number of ritual monsters used. 1+ can't be destroyed by battle, 2+ can't be destroyed by card effects, and it gains 1200 attack. And if you use 3, it can't be targeted, plus it gains another 1200 attack, bringing it to a whopping 4800 attack. Really good for putting up some big attack power while having total protection. And finally, the last 2 cards I want to talk about is 1 copy of Linkmail Archfiend and 1 copy of Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Link Mail Archfiend was a card I discovered in my card collection, and I thought it would be perfect. And throughout testing, it's been fantastic, especially because this deck can have a hard time putting up big damage. So you can target a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monster you control or in your graveyard, and your opponent's monsters all lose attack equal to it. It also protects any monster you summoned from the extra deck from being targeted. Plus, if it were to be destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can banish a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz monster from your graveyard instead. Underworld Goddess is just a badass card. Link 5 monster that can use an opponent's monster as one of its link material is insane. Negates the effects of all monsters they currently control. It's unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card. Plus, if they try to activate a card or effect that special summons a monster or special summons from the graveyard, negate that activation. Well, that is it for the deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything you like or don't like, please leave me a comment telling me what you think. Be sure to like the video if you did and subscribe for more content. Thank you for your support and always enjoy the Sacred Cards. See you all in the next one.